What's the scariest situation you've been in?
Units heading up to the code 3 chase. Suspect was
Okay, so I'm at a house party in a rather shitty neighborhood. One guest, call him Kyle, is selling and smoking meth, along with his girlfriend Beth. Beth is around 6 months pregnant, drinking, smoking, so we know that she makes great choices. But Beth decides to beat up a girl with a cast on her leg. Hair pulling, slapping eventually leads to the girl in the cast punching Beth in her stomach. A cry for Kyle rings out. Kyle, however, is too busy trying to show his underdeveloped cock to a group of 16-year-olds at the party. Kyle departs in a meth-fueled haze, pants around his ankles. He grabs his gun, leaves the jeans behind, and rushes to help. Kyle talks to Beth and sets out to shoot the girl in the cast. She, however, had made her escape at this time, but Kyle still scoured the place looking for her, while Beth started to bleed fairly badly. Sirens rang out. This is unfortunately where my part ends. As being the wily 17-year-old that I was, I ran for it, barely escaping to my car and making a very slow getaway, trying to be undetected. Pretty scary at the time, but the adrenaline made it seem fun. Wife and I were shopping, and there was a notification of an active shooter. We were held up in the stockroom of the store, which was a two-way swinging door, so no way to actually secure it. There was about 35 people in the room with us, almost none of whom were taking it seriously, and wouldn't shut the hell up. 3 of us were military, so we set up a plan and properly barricaded the best we could and told everyone else to sit down and shut it. We had a diabetic and a pregnant woman back there with us too. It lasted about 3 hours, but adrenaline made it feel more like an hour. Needless to say, I hated most that my wife was in that situation with me, and I, along with the other military people in there with me, was ready to fuck that person's shit up. All in all, it ended up a false alarm, but as far as we knew, it wasn't, and we treated it that way. Sailed on the Andaman Sea to the coast of Myanmar in a huge thunderstorm. Bad call by the crew leaving the island we were on just before the storm hit us. We saw lightning strike around us a few times, and were on a tiny wooden ship with absolutely no protection. The Burmese captain was trembling behind the wheel. I truly felt it could be over at any moment, and was starting to make my peace with not making it back home. We drank many, many beers after making it through. This reminded me of a boat wreck my dad was part of when I was in my mom's belly. They swam for hours under a storm with huge waves hitting them. Day turned into night, basically, and 5+ meters waves hitting the boat until it soaked and sunk. My dad actually gave up and said his last words to his buddy, but his buddy didn't accept. Reminded him about his daughter, his wife, and the baby that was coming, me, and somehow he found the strength to keep swimming. One of the guys saved them by knowing where a supposed rock formation would be, and he was right. They found the rock formation and reached it. It was dangerous and a really tense challenge to climb it during a storm. They had to have a perfect time to go with the flow of the wave and grab rocks, taking care to not get sucked by the vacuum of water made by the wave. They did it, and the next challenge is that was getting late and the tide was going up. Gladly, the cook of some boat passing nearby saw them waving and asking for help far away, and called the captain. They approached, not too close, and the guys had to swim to it again, having another challenge to jump into the water during a storm without getting hit back by the rocks. Finally, they all made it to the boat, and were saved by them. Their story made into the news, and into a famous magazine in our country. Their boat was found almost 100 kilometers away from the spot they sunk. Crazy stuff. This happened 40 years ago, but still sticks with me. A buddy and I are doing a long-distance hike in northern Maine. We are in the middle of a nowhere. One time it was just starting to get dark. We're hanging by a fire, when all of a sudden we hear something big crashing through the brush about 100 yards away. We look at each other and both go to look what made that ungodly noise. It didn't take long. He was about 10 yards into the brush. A huge moose, with an arrow sticking out of his side. Holy shit, what do? The poor thing had gotten itself all tangled up. We go back to our campsite. I grab my bush saw and my first aid kit. We go back. It took me 6 hours to clear all the brush away. It's 2 a.m. now. I put on my headlamp, grab my kit, and go check the moose. I'm no vet, but the arrow did seem to hit somewhere that had him bleeding pretty bad. I couldn't believe how fucking big this animal was. He was huge. He kept lifting his head up, looking straight at me. I kept talking to him. He'd flick his ears. As he went to lay his head down, I grabbed the arrow and pulled it out. I took 4 cotton balls I had and jammed them deep into the hole. I had slathered half a tube of wound care in the cotton balls. Probably when I went to jail for a week. First thing that happened was some dude stole my Crocs, so I stole them back. 2 of them come into my cell and I'm laying on my rack, top bunk, and demand I give them back their Crocs. I say 2 dudes don't need 1 pair of Crocs, so they come at me and I heel kicked one of the dudes as hard as I could in the face. My cellie gets up and says that they need to take this bullshit outside of our cell. He was a pretty big dude, and I guess a frequent flyer because they left without hesitation. Anyhow, get to talking to my cellie, and he tells me that they're gonna come after me and that he's got my back, but he won't have it all times, so he suggests I make a weapon out of something innocuous, so that I don't get more time added. So I put a bar of soap in a sock. A day later, 4 of them come at me in the bathroom, and I started whipping that shit around like a lion tamer. I got some good ones in, and definitely dazed a few of them, but I don't care how tough you aren't doing shit against 4 dudes as one guy. I got scuffed up pretty good. I didn't know what was gonna go down when they approached me, and that was the scariest thing. Were they going to kill me? Were they going to rape me? Turned out to be neither. They were just a couple of young dipshits trying to make a name for themselves. The rest of my week in the slammer went off without incident after it was discovered that I'll fight. Don't ever go to jail, folks. That place sucks. Sleep paralysis is the worst, man. Never been more terrified in my life. Woke up very late at night once and literally couldn't move anything except my eyes. At the bottom of the bed, where the window was and the streetlight spilled in, there was a strange black mass in the shape of a person. I watched, absolutely terrified, as the shadow moved up the bed, around to the side where my ex-girlfriend was sleeping. And I couldn't do anything about it. It got really close to her face, and I could have sworn I saw it smile. Then, as if nothing had happened, I could move again, and the shadow was gone. I wouldn't wish sleep paralysis on anyone. I only ever had sleep paralysis once, but these tips helped me. Don't open your eyes. Just don't. As long as your eyes are closed, you won't hallucinate. Hold your breath. It's usually the only thing you can still control. But you'll wake up because of that. Another tip, relax. It's so hard to do this, but as long as you let it pass through, it'll go away. When I try to fight back, it gets harder and seems like more weight is on me. When I was 10, I woke up around midnight to severe pain and crawling sounds in my left ear. I yelled for my father, but he wasn't around. He had gone out to a bar with a friend after I went to sleep. I spent a long time screaming in pain and trying to look into my ear on the mirror and pouring water into it. Turns out a cockroach had laid an egg in my ear and they were hatching that night. The empty egg came out about a week later. I had roach legs come out of my ear for years while cleaning it with Q-tips. I was about 11 years old and off school sick with the flu. My mom worked in the little shop literally 5 minutes away from our house, so she left me alone that morning to do her shift, and I was just chilling on the couch watching television. I heard the front door open and assumed it was my mom home early. It was a random man who was heavily intoxicated. He went straight to the coffee table and lifted up my bottle of cough medicine and downed the entire lot. I ran and hid in the bathroom and cried. There was no mobile phones back then or anything. After a while, I had to run out in my pajamas, really sick, and run along to my mom's work. The police turned up and found the guy asleep on our couch. Locked inside a Gap store all night when I was a teenager. I had to use the bathroom, and the store was getting ready to close, so I rushed in real quick. I made a mess in the bathroom, so I took way longer than expected. When I got out, everyone was gone. I freaked out and tried many ways to get out. This was before cell phones, so when I tried using the store phone, it required a passcode. I slept on the floor and woke up at 7 a.m. and waited hid in the bathroom for the store to open. 20 minutes after the store opened, I casually walked out, and no one saw me. I got home and my mom was cooking French toast. I told her I decided to sleep at a friend's house because we stayed up late watching a movie. My mom was cool, so it was nothing. I just needed more of an excuse to not look awkward walking in the house at 8:30 a.m. in the summer. Had my French toast and fell asleep for another 2 hours. It turned out good in the end. Dear viewer, if you have similar stories from life, you can share them in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Good luck!